Take a moment. Shut your eyes. Take a deep breath and think about this question. What is peace? Take a moment. Shut your eyes. Take a deep breath. I'm willing to guess that thousands of notions about peace just surfaced. Some of you may have thought about big picture, philosophical ideas of peace. Something out there, somewhere, someday. Others may have considered actions, how peace is lived and practiced in the present. This is the beauty of peace. It is personal and intimate. And at the same time, it is something bigger than each of us. There is no one way to define peace, and thus, so many ways to work toward it. While Rotary as an organization has been committed to peace from its very start, peace hasn't always been taken that seriously. But things are changing, and organizations like Rotary, in partnership with organizations like the Institute for Economics and Peace, as you just saw in the video, they're shifting the conversation on just what peace is and isn't, how peace is practiced, and how peace is measured. Instead of simply trying to stop direct violence or negative peace, Rotary has been focused on building positive peace. The attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. Rotary does this through its very membership, uniting individuals like yourselves in a common cause, and through its 6 areas of focus. Considered through a positive peace lens, all 6 areas of focus are interconnected. They address social, economic, and political factors and relations, and consider the interrelated facets of human development. For example, providing a community with clean drinking water means children are less likely to miss school due to health problems. And education can lead to better job opportunities in the future. Adults are also less likely to miss work and are better able to provide for their families. Fundamental to Rotary's peace work is the Rotary Peace Center and Peace Fellowship Program, Rotary's peace force of more than 1,000 leaders working in more than 100 countries, in non-governmental organizations, large and small, foundations, government, and law enforcement. Peace Fellows, Ikar Ahmed, a Canadian of Somali origin, who now contributes to making Canada a more welcoming place, advocating for policies that empower refugees and immigrants to achieve their full potential in their new home. Amanda Martin, director of an innovative community transformation center with ETA Projects, a public health organization addressing water, sanitation, and disease prevention in rural Bolivia, working hand in hand with community health promoters and leaders. And Carlos Juarez, who witnessed increasing violence in his hometown of Acapulco, Mexico, organized neighbors to advocate for political action, and now directs the Institute for Economics and Peace office in Mexico. I am proud to be counted among the ranks of these Peace Fellows, each of us with our own area of focus, together cultivating the conditions for peaceful societies to flourish. As for me, I grew up overseas, the daughter of civilians working for the US military, very aware of difference, privilege, and power from a young age. This awareness stayed with me as a university student, and I wanted to do something. In 2004, I volunteered to lead an international service team to Guatemala, and the Rotary Foundation, an organization I had never heard of before, made the trip possible with a volunteer service grant. During my time in Guatemala, I was deeply impacted by a women's textile cooperative, Ishakak Hamul, 28 weavers who depended on their earnings to send their kids to school. At their request, a friend and I started a project in the US to sell the weavers' handicrafts at a fair wage. That small project launched my career in international development, inspiring me to advocate for social justice, for small-scale producers, and community-driven development in the Global South. The Guatemala service team led to work with Equal Exchange, a fair trade coffee, tea, and chocolate company, and later in academia with gender studies, nonviolence studies, and leadership studies at Kansas State University, and ultimately with the Asian University for Women in Chittagong, Bangladesh, an institution dedicated to cultivating women leaders. These early career jobs allowed me to experience economic and community development at various levels, from the field to the boardroom to the classroom. But I reached a point where I knew I needed specific skills, knowledge, and connections to go further, to have a deeper impact on a global level. And the Rotary Peace Fellowship provided that opportunity. My master's in International Studies, Peace and Conflict Resolution from the University of Queensland equipped me with the tools necessary to critically analyze and rethink development approaches, to be a more effective practitioner. And upon finishing the fellowship, I was hungrier than ever to be back in the field, preventing conflict and building peace via community-driven development. I joined Coffee Kids, a US-based nonprofit dedicated to improving livelihoods for coffee farming communities in Latin America through health, education, food security, microfinance, and capacity building projects. In my job as International Program Coordinator, I worked one-on-one with grassroots partner organizations to help them implement and measure the impact of projects they themselves designed and carried out. Projects that allowed women like Francesca in Honduras to obtain a microcredit loan to start her own coffee nursery, selling disease-resistant seedlings to neighboring farmers. In my job, the El Privilegio Women's Cooperative in Nicaragua, I worked one-on-one, which started a Women in Solidarity savings group more than 15 years ago, and eventually generated enough funds to start their own coffee roasting business. So successful, it even bumped some national and international brands from their top market share. Coffee Kids partners and project participants taught me a lot that I hadn't learned in the classroom about relationship building and trust, about entrepreneurship and building resiliency in the face of challenges, and just what sustainability means and how to work towards it in a project. And this inspired me, along with my former boss at Coffee Kids, to launch True Roots International, a nonprofit consulting organization providing no-nonsense guidance, tools, and training to help donors and nonprofit organizations plan, implement, and measure the impact of their humanitarian work. True Roots helps build inclusive value chains and markets that engage the full capabilities of both women and men, conducting research on trends and attitudes at various levels of the coffee industry, from farmers to policymakers, proposing recommendations to help create greater gender equity, and supporting small-scale initiatives like Femme Cafe, an organic women's coffee brand that remunerates women for unpaid household labor. True Roots connects donors like the Rotary Club of Duncan Daybreak Canada with international nonprofits with a record of delivering impact, like Campo in Oaxaca, Mexico. We created a customized community development learning tour for Rotary Club members in 2016, and they now support a water tank project in the community they visited, empowering a women's micro-enterprise project to increase production and income. And True Roots helps organizations like the Rotary Foundation to coordinate, measure, and enhance the impact of their work in peace and conflict prevention and resolution. I do this as the Rotary Institute for Economics and Peace Partnership Coordinator, as well as the Monitoring and Evaluation Manager for A Stronger Mexico, Pillars of Positive Peace Workshop, a Rotary Global grant bringing together more than 300 Rotaractors, university students, and youth leaders to learn about principles of positive peace. We are already seeing the impact of these peace builders learning, creating new projects and collaboration networks, and carrying out their own workshops and trainings. And there are plans in the work for more trainings. The work that I do as director of True Roots International weaves together my experiences, my learning, and my passion for supporting change makers and peace builders in doing their work effectively, efficiently, and respectfully. But I would not be where I am today if not for that Rotary Volunteer Service Grant that led me to Guatemala, or the Rotary Peace Fellowship. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to give back to Rotary now, to help demonstrate Rotary's impact to the world and Rotary's work toward peace. Now, you may be wondering, what can I do to support Rotary's peace work? Well, like a good consultant, I've made a to-do list with detailed instructions for you, so if you have a pen and some paper, get it out. I also teach online for a university, so I'm also going to go into professor mode here. First, you can support peace through Rotary via the Rotary Peace Fellowship Program. Read and be inspired by Rotary Peace Fellow stories in A String of Pearls, the book included in your assembly packet. Seek out ideal candidates and provide strong guidance through the application process. Second, join and become active in the Rotarian Action Group for Peace, an organization offering guidance and resources to further collective Rotary peace efforts. Third, explore the connection between peace and each of Rotary's 6 areas of focus at the 2018 Presidential Peacebuilding Conferences, as well as the Rotary Peacebuilding Summit in Toronto right before the convention. Fourth, propose and fund peace projects via district grants and global grants, and ask a Rotary Peace Fellow to assist. There's over 1,000 of us. As district governors, you can identify and support promising projects in Rotary's areas of focus. Projects that reflect Rotary's 4-way test, emphasize accountability and measurable impact, and that have an eye to sustainability. Fifth, plug into the new Rotary Institute for Economics and Peace Partnership, linking the Institute for Economic and Peace's empirical peace research to Rotary's grassroots work in communities around the globe. Sign up for the soon-to-be-released Positive Peace Academy, an online training platform to better understand and promote peace. Support 2 upcoming Positive Peace workshops in Mexico and Colombia in 2019, which build off 2 global grant pilot workshops in Uganda and Mexico. And host your own Positive Peace workshop, bringing together diverse groups of leaders and peace builders to address underlying issues of conflict. A curriculum for club, district, community level, and large-scale positive peace workshops will be available in mid-2018. Finally, when it comes to furthering Rotary's peace work, the last piece of advice I can offer is not so much a specific activity or project, but rather a general mindset and awareness. It is simply to take responsibility for your actions and to do your part. As district governors, you are tasked with a significant responsibility, and many Rotarians will look to you for direction. But keep in mind, you are still human, and you are part of humanity. And as Desmond Tutu says, my humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. In other words, my peace is tied to your peace. This means that what each of you do in your personal and Rotary life, your individual efforts, they add up to collective movement and change. So if there's one thing that sticks with you today, let it be this. Each of you is a peace builder. Peace work is not something relegated just to government officials, high-level officials at the UN, or Rotary Peace Fellows. Peace is something that each of us can and must do. Thank you.
Let's be honest, the world can seem scary. Violence, poverty, disease, corruption, pollution. The problems just seem too overwhelming, too big. You are just one person, right? Not if you are a Rotarian. You are part of a club, part of a district, part of an international network of 1.2 million Rotarians in 35,000 clubs in 200 nations. This makes you part of the largest and most impactful service organization in the world. As Rotarians, you have roughly the same human power as the globe's most powerful militaries, with the added benefit of being woven into the fabric of your community. Rotary as a global organization connects you with a network of passionate community leaders, focused on positive change through service and the four-way test. Rotary's 6 areas of focus strengthen that network into a powerful force for peace. So, what if we started thinking about Rotary as more than a collection of service clubs, and just started thinking of ourselves as a global peace-building force? What if together we wage peace? Just imagine Rotarians building a world beyond war. But first, some background. Did you know that we are living in the most peaceful period in human history? Wars are less common and kill less people. Violence against women and children is the lowest in history. Homicides have decreased dramatically in much of the world. Genocide and other civilian killings are less prevalent. The number of democracies is increasing every year, and human rights are recognized in much of the world as a cornerstone of basic governance. The world is not falling apart as the media might lead us to believe. In fact, measurable trends support the emergence of a global peace system that today rivals the global war system. Trends that led to the development of international institutions like the United Nations aimed at preventing war. Trends about the protection of civilians. Trends proving nonviolence is more effective than armed resistance. Trends toward the proliferation of peace education. Trends favoring the economics of peace over the economics of war. And trends leading to the flourishing of international law, treaties, and courts. So what if we changed our mindset as Rotarians to match the current realities, the current science? The good news is, Rotary already set us up for success with the 6 areas of focus. When you build economic opportunity for communities, Rotary builds peace. When you provide education where education is not available, Rotary builds peace. When you provide clean water and sanitary conditions, Rotary builds peace. When you improve on the health of women and children, Rotary builds peace. When you prevent and treat disease, Rotary builds peace. And when you focus specifically on peace and conflict prevention and resolution, as a cornerstone of your club's activities, Rotary directly builds peace. We are this close to ending polio, but what's next? For over 100 years, Rotarians have been advancing understanding, goodwill, and peace through their service work. Now with the peace area of focus and network of over 1,000 Rotary Peace Fellows, we're ready to take it to the next level. Peace building is about community building. We're ready to train leaders, including youth, to build peace and to prevent and mediate conflict. Convene people and resources to increase the peace-building impact of Rotary service projects in all areas of focus. Empower Rotarians everywhere to create sustainable peace building in communities and regions affected by conflict and more. You are a Rotarian, and you build peace. This is your call to action. Start a peace committee in your club. Volunteer to be the peace chair for your district. It is a Rotary-supported position. Support the Rotary Peace Centers by recruiting qualified candidates. You can lead your club to engage in at least one service project annually that promotes nonviolence or raises understanding of the root causes of violence. You can start by joining a Rotarian Action Group. Through the Rotarian Action Group for Peace Hub MAP, you can connect with other Rotarians and peace committees. Tap into the expertise of our Global Peace Fellow alumni community through the new Peace Hub MAP. So, the world isn't that scary after all, because peace is you, and you are Rotary. Go wage peace.
I'm the CEO of Red Dot Foundation. It's a not-for-profit in India as well as in the US, and our main work is sexual violence prevention.
Right now, I'm based in Bangkok, building up a social enterprise network, supporting smallholders farmers in moving to sustainable agriculture.
One of my passions is working with youth, providing mentorship, and drawing out the leadership and skills that so many of our young people have.
I've been involved with Aikido for over 35 years. I have been working a lot with traumatized clients, especially from abuse, from domestic violence.
I'm the founder and CEO of The Female Voice, a global hub for females to empower the world.
My work is to build bridges between communities, to make sure that communities understand each other, to create receptivity for immigration.
I work now at the Sanitation and Water for All partnership. What we do as a partnership is to really catalyze action around the water, sanitation, and hygiene.
Some of the skills that I took back from the Rotary Peace Fellowship program was better communication in the non-violent space.
If we can support the economic development in a very sustainable way, I believe that we have a chance for building a peace platform.
First of all, we are a family of Peace Fellows, and we see ourselves as change agents in the community.
The fellowship creates sort of this hotbed of growth and evolution for peace builders, for people advocating for social change.
The training for me, it helped because I did not just come out as somebody who understands development policy, but I also have this insight into peace and conflict resolution.
It's my personal experience that Aikido can bring peace from within, and then you can expand that to other people through your interaction.
And if you have the passion and you have the desire to make change in your community or in the world, you're the right person for this program.
A single act of good can go a long way. It can cross oceans, cure disease, and create equality. As members of Rotary, we are people of action, and our actions have the power to speak loud and clear. We choose to see what's possible for our world and take action to shape it into all the good it could become. Through our commitment to peace and justice around the world, we've seen its boundless potential firsthand. We see it every week across the globe as more than 35,000 Rotary Clubs bring together women and men with leadership skills and diverse perspectives to unite communities around a common purpose. We're investing in programs that deepen cultural understanding while addressing the core causes of conflict so we can reduce violence and build trust. We believed the most important investment we'll ever make is in people, training young leaders to thrive and be resilient. As the Rotary Peace Centers thrive and our 60-year collaboration with the United Nations continues, the impact of our peace-building efforts is even further amplified, giving the voiceless a platform to speak for themselves and helping Rotary find potential in unexpected places. Today we invite you to see what's possible, because when we gain new perspectives, we have the power to change the world. Learn how you can support the cause that means the most to you.
Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Just put your hand up.
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Good
Okay,
morning.
great. Just a quick good morning. Just a quick announcement. Is President Dimple in the house? If she is, can you just check your chat, please? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Is everyone hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning again. My name is Cheyenne Galab, and I will be your host for today. Just a little about myself. I am a RYLA alumna, and I'm also the recipient of a Paul Harris Fellow Award. Now, again, I just want to welcome you to the annual District 7020 Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Our theme for this year is Peace Leaders in Action, moving from conflict to peace. Now, today we have a very interactive and a very lively session planned for you all, and we hope that you will learn something from what the presenters have to say today. I hope we'll all leave today making a new friend, and I hope we will all take something from the session that will prepare us to be peace leaders and to be catalysts of change in today's society. Now, to start our proceedings today, I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Kim Stubbs, the District Chair for Peace Building and Conflict Resolution. It is our pleasure to have her here today, again, because she was at our pre-RYLA session. I'm not sure if our district governor is here as yet, but if he is, okay, great. Welcome to you. Welcome to you, District Governor Charles Seeley. It is our pleasure to have you today here, sir, and we look forward to hearing from you later in the proceedings. All meeting protocols observed. I will now like to invite Rashante from the Turks and Caicos Island, who will be starting the proceedings with our four-way test. And before we begin, please note that the four-way test will be recited in both French and English. Rashante, you can go ahead. Interact to Rashante from the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Will it be fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you so much, Rashante. and in French, the immediate past president of the Rotary Club of the Pegnonville Herod Metlos. Just forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly. You can go ahead, past president.
It's correct. It is correct. It is correct. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. You can go ahead.
En vertu de ce que nous pensons, disons et faisons, est-ce vrai, est juste, est de volonté et d'amitié, est équitable et bénéfique pour chacun. Thank you.
Thank you too for that. Now to continue our proceedings, we'll have the opening remarks from Peter Gay Price, our Rotary District 7020 RYLA Chair. Peter Gay. Is Peter Gay here with us? Okay, great.
Sorry, I started speaking and didn't realize my mic was not unmuted. Madam Chair, District Governor Charles Seeley, DGE Louis, district leaders and participants, good morning. On behalf of the District 7020 RYLA Planning Committee, I'd like to welcome all of you both on Zoom and YouTube. A couple months ago when we met, you as youth leaders entered as strangers and thought you would be leaving just the same as when you arrived at RYLA. However, you gave yourselves an opportunity to interact with each other, to discuss the other's strengths and weaknesses, to uncover your hidden potential and to unleash the power you possessed within you. You became peace leaders in action. Today, as peace leaders, we're touching base again, and this time we are taking it a step further. This time we're bringing more conversation, more excitement, more inspiring sessions because we are moving from conflict to peace. A special welcome to the individuals that made this event possible. We are honored and truly grateful for your assistance, not just today, but throughout our Rotary journey. There are many actions that will influence the presence of peace in our communities and homes. Thinking about them is cause to pause and reflect on the suffering of millions, and it compels us to do something. I want to remind you about some of the things that arose from our engagements over the past few months. You made it clear that as peace leaders, conflict, domestic violence, interpersonal relations, and sexual abuse are the priority topics to be addressed. Today, we're here to continue to strengthen your role in overcoming obstacles to peace, in taking action, and moving from conflict to peace. Recall your participation in a survey. You told us the most important avenues for promoting peace in order of importance are within your homes, communities, churches, school, work, and social media. For you, print media is valuable, but it is not most important. Most important in maintaining peace in order of importance for you is attitude, purpose, identity. Many of you consider your communities fairly peaceful. Some of you estimated the level of peace in your communities to be 42%. What our survey resoundingly told us, however, is that all of you understand that peace is to be achieved and we all have a role to play. Our discussion leaders today have first-hand experience in the field. They have empirical evidence to share. Today, we'll be engaging in our discussions about culturally appropriate interventions designed to achieve peace, the mindset and qualities of peace leaders, and overcoming obstacles to peace, all with a view to strengthen your role and to hone your skills. This we need to achieve in order to make our world safer for us and those to come. I want all of you to be committed, to continue the commitment as we are committed to you in the true sense of RYLA, to help you to develop your skills as leaders and have fun making connections. We all know that if we work together, if we bring together our various skills and expertise and influence advocacy, we must have a much greater impact. Enjoy the conversations today. Participate fully. I like to say full-ticipate. And thank you. Now hand over to you, Cheyenne.
Thank you so much for that, Madam Chair. And as we move along our proceedings today, Up next is a very important individual to the district and to the Rotary family. I don't even want to say too much. I don't even want to say his name. I will leave all of that up to Adante from St. Martin, who will be introducing our own district governor, Charles Seeley, today. Adante, go ahead, please. Adante? Is Adante here with us?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to
Okay, I believe Adante might be experiencing some technical difficulties.
Can you guys hear me now?
Okay, great. Yes, we can. You can go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to officially welcome our District Governor, Charles Seeley Jr., the second, to this RYLA this morning. Did you guys hear me?
So let me start on that introduction. I think the name does good justice to it. So thank you so much for the introduction, and good morning, RYLA. I of course had a little bit of a mix-up on the time, and so I'm actually heading to another Rotary function. But listen to me, I have to stop and make sure I'm a part of what's going on today. I want to especially say a word to the individual who did the four-way test, because she did it absolutely perfectly, because she put a question mark at the end of each of those phrases. And that's what the four-way test is supposed to be for us. It is in all of our interactions, all of our engagements, we ask those questions. We put that question before ourselves so that we make the right decision. And we do consider, to the extent it's fair to all concerned. And, you know, I've been in so many clubs where we just recite it. But I was so impressed with how she said it, because it should always sound like a question, always questioning what we're doing. Well, let me say, of course, a good morning to all of the leaders, to a good morning to all of you who are here present today. Thank you to those who have been working assiduously to make sure that this event comes off perfectly. We started last year, some would say with uncertainty, but we knew that it was going to be different, that this year in Rotary was going to be different. And we have seen the benefits of a difference, of a nuance. We've seen RYLA taken to a level that it probably never saw that it will go to. And probably, but for COVID and this pandemic, we would have not even considered. And so I'm excited to see what has been able to morph out of a degree of uncertainty that began in July 1 of last year. The theme and the focus that you young persons are being allowed to discuss today is a transformative one. It's one that has an impact beyond just your physical space, and it transcends into what the world is and what the world can be. I probably want to drop a couple of nuggets with you before I leave. And one is, I want to leave with you the phrase pride, not the word pride, the phrase pride. And I want you to hold on to the phrase pride to mean personal responsibility for individual daily effort. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means simply that you are responsible for what happens from you, what comes from you, what decisions or lack of decisions that are made. We live in a society, and certainly I'll tell you, I know it's Caribbean, that's probably worldwide, where many times we seek to blame people for what we've done or what we've not done. And unfortunately, in peace or in violence, that's what tends to happen. You hear a fight between two young persons, and the first thing is, well, I hit him because he said something, or I responded because he hit me, and we naturally blame the other person. We want to take you to a space where you control the decisions that you make, and that you be smart. When we were younger, we were told whenever you got upset that you would count to 10, and literally you don't count to 10. But the reason why they said that was give yourself a moment to think. Think beyond the moment of upsetness, of anger, of angst, and think of the space of resolution. Where would you like this to end? And then make decisions that would push you in that direction. I always tell my sons, your best black belt degree is in run fu, not kung fu. When you see trouble, don't head towards it. Head away from it. Find the right way to be able to respond to it in a sensible way and safeguard. But our journey in life, and this is important for you to understand as you are absorbers, your journey in life is to make the world a better place than what you met. And so as you seek to engage this information, understand that this is an opportunity for you to see beyond you. See beyond you and see what are the opportunities for you to have a positive impact on the world. And I know you're going to, because you have stayed with it from pre-RYLA to now, and you understand that these are important divots for you. I certainly look forward to the evolution that you young persons, as you can see a better way for this world, that you become agents of transformation, agents of change. And I'm really excited about the series that you're going to do today. I know it's going to be thought-provoking in one instance, but I do want you to spend the time. It's very easy to get distracted on this virtual. We can't see you, you can't see us, but I'm going to encourage you. It's only 2 hours to really spend the time to absorb, spend the time to listen, spend the time to ponder, because when you move away, the beauty of the virtual space sometimes is you can play it over again because it's being recorded and we'll make it available to you. You can sit back in another moment and then go over it and then share the ideas with your friends, because the more persons we can get to think like this, the better it's going to be. I salute each and every one of you. Madam Chair, you've already started off with an absolutely wonderful way. I can see the energy and I can see the enthusiasm and I can see the professionalism. I look forward to the remaining session. Have a wonderful day. And of course, to the leaders, thank you again for all you do. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Thank you so very much, District Governor Seeley. And I truly believe that this session we have today, that we have planned for today, is indeed transformative, and it does possess possibilities beyond our imagination. And until we really delve deep into the issue of conflict and how we're going to actually resolve varying conflicts that are around us, then can we become agents of transformation and change. Now, just before we go into our next presenter for today, we're just going to take a little break to prepare our minds for the plethora of information that we have prepared for you all.
All that you can be. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. Rise above. it all in spite of what you see. Your vision will soon be reality. Gonna seize the day. The clouds have left, the skies are clearer now. We will rebuild together now. You will be okay. And if nobody else can see all that you can be, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you.
So, for the persons who may not be aware, that song was handpicked by our very own District Governor Charles as our district song for the District 7020 year Rotary year. And just in case you want to listen to the song again, it is called I Believe in You. So you can find it very easily on YouTube. It is by Julian Believe, and I will put it in the chat so that anyone who is interested may be able to listen to it. Now, as we move along our agenda for today, I'll be introducing our discussion leaders for today. President Novlet will be leading our discussion, followed by Mr. Trevor Spence and Mr. Ricardo McGeechee. So most of you who were here for pre-RYLA would have remembered President Novlet and how impactful she was with the information and the stories that she had to share with us. And just in case you're new to President Novlet, let me just tell you a little bit more about her. Miss Novlet Grant, retired Deputy Commissioner of Police. Final assignment in the JCF was the head of the Administration and Supportive Services portfolio. She had a short stint as the head of the JCF when she was appointed Commissioner of Police for the period of January to April 2017. A career police officer with extensive specialized and general experience gained working in criminal investigations, operations, and administration. Management experience gained in over 2 decades, working at various levels of police leadership in the constabulary. These experiences are strategic leadership and management, organizational transformation, human rights practices and intervention, human capital development, governance, international relations, public safety and security, gender, urban crime, and violence prevention. Ms. Grant is an experienced trainer and develops manuals and delivers training programs aimed at human capital development, community development, crime prevention, especially domestic, sexual, and gender-based violence. She has also presented papers at a number of conferences on policing and security, both locally and internationally. She holds a Bachelor of Degrees in Management Studies, Master's in Human Resource Development from the University of the West Indies, Mona, and also holds a certificate in Applied Project Management from the University of Boston. A trained learning and development specialist, Ms. Grant develops training manuals and programs, as well as facilitating workshops to address human and organizational needs. Ms. Grant, also a motivational speaker, an avid reader, enjoys watching documentaries, listening to music, meeting and talking to people. Based on the aforementioned, I have no doubt in my mind that President Novlet Grant possesses all the knowledge and experience needed to speak on the topic at hand. So can we please welcome President Novlet Grant? President Novlet, over to you.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I don't know what's happening with my video. Anyway, okay. Oh, you guys locked me out. All right, so thank you everybody for being with us again this year, 2021. Hope it has not been too challenging for you. AG Yasmin is going to be my wingman on this presentation. Forgive me, my slides might be a little bit too much. I have too many things doing. So just bear with me, but I hope you will I'll be able to get through the information that is on it. So I just want to give my own special welcome to another in our conversation for youth as peace leaders. We thank you and commend you for your efforts and your interest as evidenced by your participation. Just want to take you back, for those of us who were here with us in December, to a few things that we had in that conversation. First and foremost, just to remind you that you may hear things which you already know, don't move your ears, which you already know or have been exposed to. That's a reminder. All we ask is that you spend the next 2 hours or so with an open mind and a willingness to engage and to actively listen. And also, please remember the power of repetition. Repetition means that you hear a message repeatedly and it tends to stick in your mind. Now, what it reinforces and helps us to internalize and hopefully to think about what was said. So when we repeat messages that are important to us, that is what helps us to solidify the ideas behind the message and to really make some changes in our own attitudes and behavior. Yes, you can go ahead. Please go ahead. Another slide, yes. All right. So in our last conversation, we sought to engage you in thinking about yourselves as peace leaders and the importance of peace and the necessary mindset that peace leaders should have. We reminded you that building and keeping peace is a continuous world struggle, and all of us should take an interest. And basically, we don't expect you to change the world, but we expect you to change a portion of the world you inhabit. And who knows, from there, you may very well find yourself influencing the rest of the world. So let me remind you of Dreamer of World Peace. Next slide, please. Remember this poem I shared with you? Oh, dreamers of peace, come, let us walk together. Oh, lovers of peace, come, let us run together. Oh, servers of peace, come, let us grow together. And in doing that, I also ask you to think about your superpower, because we said that each of us had some amount of superpower. And I am hoping that the superpower that you chose last time and your name that you chose, that you remember it. And, you know, if I were a superhero, my name would be, and my superpower would be, and I would use my superpower too. And basically, because we're talking about peace, we were encouraging you to think about how you would use that superpower to help you build peace and promote peace in your community and so on. And that as a peace-loving superhero, the job that you would really love to have, we ask you about those things. So I want you to keep those focus in mind, because it is important that you recognize that while you might not be in the Marvel universe of superheroes in your own way, in your own life, you have skills and you have attributes that are akin to superpower. All we need you to do is to build on them and to share them and to use them. And one day you'll be surprised to know how much you have grown and how much you have been soaring. Next slide, please, Yaz. So in today's conversation, what we want to talk about is your ability to take action. And if you're going to take action, because we want you to move beyond just talking, but we want you to really do something about conflicts that you encounter. So what I want to share with you are some principles surrounding conflict resolution to help empower you to move the actions and the conversations beyond where you are just now. So we want you to have these principles so that you can handle everyday disputes and disagreements and difficult situations, diffuse them, resolve them, and reach some kind of peaceful agreements. And from last time, we want to remind you also of the mindset and skills that you should have. Just reminding you that we told you about knowing yourself, that is having self-awareness, having awareness of others and their needs, choose peace, that is, we want to encourage you to learn to live with others, and we want you to practice non-violent communication, because a lot of the communication that we practice in the region does tend to lead towards violence. And most importantly, we want you to be active listeners. Next slide, please, yes. So those are some of the things that we encourage you to do from last time. So here we are. How do you know that a conflict is happening? Stop and think about it. I'd love to see you write something in the chat that, you know, Peter Gay and others can look at, and your fellow participants could look at. How do you know? How do you recognize that there's a conflict going on? There may be some very obvious signs which you can easily recognize, or there may be a few very subtle ones. So let us see. How do you know that there's a conflict happening? What would be the thing? What would be the change in temperature that would tell you that something is not right? Can you share? All right, I see somebody sharing there. That's a good one that I saw up there. Go ahead with the next slide, yes. So when a conflict, we are experiencing conflict, right? Remember, conflict at its simplest, at its very simplest form, amounts to an argument or a disagreement between groups, individuals, or even countries, right? Unfortunately, many of us take sides and tend to adopt either the group that we belong to, their perception and their position, or our friends or our family's position about a conflict. And many of us who get into a conflict situation are very much unaware that there is the option to resolve the conflict through strong, carefully thought out resolution process, which can transform the conflict into new possibilities. So some of the thing that people have when they're experiencing conflict is that there is anxiety and there is stress. And we need to be aware that those emotions come with it. And what is important is that we don't make the simple things grow into something big so that it increases beyond the possibility of pulling it back. And so we also, because we don't listen very well, we mishear, we misinterpret it. And we also have to get past our own defensive feelings. And usually when we're experiencing conflict, you see the ways that we normally try to resolve them. It depends on the individual. Can we arrive at a formal or an informal agreement about what was bothering us? Can an apology serve to move us along? Is there any way to come to kind of an agreement so that we can rebuild our relationship? Are we able to let go of resentments? Because one of the things that we don't do very well is forgive. And so we have a lot of resentments and we carry baggage, and some of us even take the resentment and contaminate our other people with it. We bring them into it and to try to get them on our sides. Next slide, please, Yaz. So if we want to deal effectively with conflict, one of the things if you're taking notes, whatever you want to do to remember for your own self, First thing, recognize it, become at ease with it, understand it. That will help you to manage it. So those three things are very important. Recognize it, become at ease that there is one happening. Don't let it stress you. Don't let it distress you. Don't become too anxious. And then you can try to understand what is behind it. And then we can figure out how we manage it. Now, if you seek to avoid or ignore the conflict, you can create a very dangerous situation. So by ignoring or avoiding conflict, you can try, it's like putting, a pot is boiling over, very, very, active, energetic, bubbling over situation. And you're trying to hold the lid down on it and it's still seeping through. So trying to deal with it when it's in high pressure situation can be really, really bad if you ignore it or deny it that it is happening. So again, your attitude can either calm it or your attitude can inflame it. Next slide, please. So many times when conflict happens, people's emotions tend to run very high. And in a situation where the conflict is complex and emotions are running high, chances are you are already in a crisis stage. And the clues can become very obvious that there is unresolved conflict. If you look and you listen keenly, you can observe when the conflict is brewing well before it reaches a crisis point. And if you stay alert in that very early stage, then it is easier to manage. So here are some of the strong indicators. Next slide, please. That could help you recognize that there is a conflict. Somebody did in fact put up body language. And I don't know that anybody speak with their body as good as Jamaicans. I think the rest of the Caribbean do too. But I think us Jamaicans have it down pat. Facial expression, the way we use our mouth, just without saying a word, you push your mouth to the left, you push it to the right, you push it in front of you. We do so many things, right? And we roll our eyes, all kinds of dismissive gestures that we can use our body. We turn our side, we put our hands to our kimbo, oh my goodness, so much. So be careful about body language, okay? People know what is brewing and they'll interpret it, and that can add fuel to fire. Then we have disagreements regardless of the issue. It doesn't matter what. Even saying that the sun is hot, somebody can disagree with you on that, because it's not really about the sun and the temperature. It's because there is an underlying problem. People can withhold information and they're not telling you things, and you need something from them, and they play around with it and they dangle you on a string, and you can't get anything done and you can't get anywhere, and you are being manipulated because of the information. Then some people like to, basically surprise you, people with nasty things, unpleasant things happen, and they wait until you are sometimes in the most inappropriate place to tell you about it. So it's very, very important that we don't do things like that to people. Surprise them when it is inappropriate. Sometimes even good things can cause a bad reaction because of how the surprise was packaged. And then you have people who like to make strong public statements around things that they don't agree with. Again, there is a problem there. And then social media, the age of social media, I have seen people who are not sharing the same space, especially among youth, going to school, and they have gang rivalry. And people are wondering, how could these people be having gang conflict when they are especially school-based ones, especially when they are not in the same schools, they don't live in the same geographic space, but they meet in cyberspace. And that is where disagreements and conflicts and a lot of those things are playing out. You look at some posts and so on, and we have to be careful that we don't add to it by sharing these things or making comments that inflame. This is one of the areas that I want peace leaders, because I know most, if not all of you, have some presence on social media. So be very careful and don't believe that those disagreements online will not find themselves in the real world and cause a whole host of problems for a lot of people. And then we have people who have conflictual value systems. Your values and my values not the same, right? And so those are some of the challenges. There's an old saying in Jamaica that two bad duppy can't walk together. So if you and I are people who are not in agreement, can't walk together and all of that, you have to be careful who you're walking with, who you're talking with, because you're going to be in conflict when they want you to do things that they are not interested in. All right, next slide, please. So and here we have again some other things. You could be in a workplace, you could be in a community, you could be in a group. People have a desire for power. There's music keep bleeding through. Thanks. People have a desire for power. Sometimes something happens and it might have been innocent, but there's always the threat of retaliation. The open disagreement again in the community about how things should be, who should be friends, who should be not speaking to each other, all of those things. And then there's a lack of openness about issues that are important to people. And these are things that can really cause us some serious headache. Next slide, please, Yaz. So one of the things that we want you to also look at is the inability to compromise. Some of us lack that ability to budge from our position. And you have to know if people that you are dealing with, if that is their tendency. And then you have some people, when they can't get their own way, there is no support, they withdraw, especially on important issues, especially when they're going to let you down. And go back, please. Especially when they're going to let you down, and know that there are things that things are going to fall apart. Then rampant rumors can be a sign of conflict, and it can cause conflict in of itself. Increasing lack of respect amongst the people who are together, whether in a home, in a group, in the workplace, in school, in community, there are those issues. Another thing that can cause major conflict is when people are together and there are no clear goals and there are no discussions about what is happening in terms of progress or failure relative to the goals, whether or not people are judging and blaming people about their performance and their contribution. Oh, you didn't do this, you should have done that, and I have been the one doing all of this work. So it boils in and can cause conflict, because in that last point there, sometimes the need for recognition around where some people is concerned is so great that you as a group member or a family member or just a friend might not be satisfying that need, and you don't know. So on an individual level, next slide, please. Each of us should really become aware of and understand our own attitudes about conflict and those indicators that I just shared with you, whether or not we have been listing in any of those directions without recognizing it. So again, we should look at our own selves and see how we can improve, because we can then, the more aware we become, is the better we are at controlling our emotional responses and help others also to control their emotional response to issues. And, somebody says that 10% of conflicts are due to differences in opinions, and the other 90% due to the wrong tone of voice. And sometimes the wrong tone of voice is not vocal. Look, that's a little baby, right? And that baby that you see in front of you, I mean, you could interpret a lot of things from that tone of voice. But obviously that's a baby, right? But an adult with that kind of face is going to cause problem. Even a child that is reach some degree of awareness will do that. So again, we have to be careful in what we're doing. Next slide, please, Yaz. So if you do not accept that disputes exist, you risk letting it grow, and you can there are some questions, 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself to see if you have accepted the existence of conflict when you find yourself around them. If you find yourself worrying about a particular situation at night, have you ever had to, this thing is nagging like a tooth that is out to give you problems? Do you find yourself seeking to avoid someone because there is tension when that person is in your space? Do you find yourself having to gossip about that person, to asking somebody, do you notice something wrong with Novelet Grant? What is happening with her? I don't understand. You need to ask. If you are answering yes to any one of these questions, the possibility exists that there is something bothering you and you could be in a conflict. So, next slide. So what does it mean to acknowledge that there is a conflict? Basically, it doesn't mean that you're gonna solve it immediately, obviously. But what it means that there is a problem and it is hanging over you and it's like a cloud. So you need to start dealing with it, and you need to have the courage to deal with it. And that courage means you need to discover what motivates you and how you will respond in a mature way. And you need to recognize that your differences might come from very trivial causes. Very trivial causes. As we say locally, colloquially, you are very touches. It's touche. Everything is touche. So we have to be careful. You might take offense at something that somebody said, or you feel that you were denied an opportunity. Ask some questions without being emotional about it and without being judgmental. Any number of factors could have set you off. Next slide, please. So you now need to ask yourself, what is it that could have set you off? You have to look at your own internal conflict, bring them to the surface, determine how you are responding, and then find out whether or not, one, is this a conflict within myself that is setting me off? Is it because I can't make up my mind about the situation? I can't make up my mind about what is being said. I can't make up my mind about the persons involved. You have to ask yourself, and if that is causing you a conflict within yourself and you're not conscious enough of it, or you ignore it, it might come out, bleed out in the conversations and the interactions. Are your needs and wants being met in with whomever and wherever you are? Right? And if you have them and you are not saying anything about them and you're bottling them up, guess what will happen? They will stay there and start to create pressure in you. Right? Suppose people are testing your values are being tested, and how you see the world, people are questioning you about it. People are challenging you. Again, that can put you under pressure. Sometimes people make assumptions about what you do, what you say, and everything about you without knowledge. They have little or no knowledge where you are concerned, and yet they are making assumptions. And sometimes you don't even know where it's coming from. All of those things. Again, expectations might be too high, expectations might be too low. Are you getting with the people you are with? Do you have too much of an expectation of them? Do they have too much of an expectation of you? So, all kinds of things. And even within the Caribbean, while we like to pretend that we are homogeneous, we are not. Personality, race, gender, all of those differences are present. I listened to a voice note, or at least I started to listen to it last night. No, I listened to all of it. A young lady was missing in Jamaica on the 24th. Unfortunately, she turned up dead. And there was a young lady who was very upset. You could hear it in her tone, in her language, everything. What she was complaining about was that others have gone missing from that space or been sexually abused, and she has not seen the same kind of interest, and everybody jumping and making comments and wanting to find the girl, showing empathy to the family, all of that. In other words, she felt that this amount of interest and activity surrounding the missing and now murdered young lady is because there was some kind of racial preference in terms of how she looked. Even though she looked just like about anybody else, she just had a smidgen of milk in her coffee and a little less curly texture to her hair. But yet this person felt hurt. And while people are condemning her, I started to wonder myself, was she a victim in some way, shape, or form? Was somebody close to her a victim and they did not generate the same kind of outpouring? So sometimes when we hear people hit out, on the face of it, it sounds bad, it sounds terrible, and we jumped, but we could ask, why did they have to hit out like that? Maybe they are re-traumatized, maybe there is pain there, and so that could lead to not to her and other people being in conflict because people don't know where she's coming from. So sometimes when we're dealing with people and they say something, we need to step back, manage our response in a mature way, and ask some questions. Next slide, please, because there is a conflict there. So having the courage to, if we deal with out of control and destructive conflict, and we have the courage to deal with it, then what we can do, we can fix it, because if we allow it to remain, we continue to damage relationship, discourage cooperation, we have defensiveness, people put up their defenses, don't want to hear anything, hidden agendas start to emerge, we waste time, we waste money, we waste human potential and even lives. We focus too much on fault finding and blaming. It is very frustrating, it is stress producing and energy draining, and unfortunately creates enemies, hard feeling, hostility, loud, aggressive, chaotic. These are the things that can happen when conflict is out of control, it becomes destructive. We need to be aware. So these are things we need to pay attention to and ensure that we are not dealing with that. So next slide, please, yes. So how do we start to move to peace? It requires us to be willing to engage in a positive process of seeking to resolve issues, whether we're doing it formally or informally. And hopefully we begin the process early enough so that the problem remains manageable and we can still cope with it and people are still willing to talk to each other, right? Next slide, please, guys. Now, I think I shared this with you last time. If I didn't, let me do it now, re-emphasize it. There are 3 things that you need to look into when you start to try to handle a conflict. What is the issue at hand that is causing the conflict? What is the relationship with the people involved? And what emotions are there? Because if we yield to looking at the issue, the relationship, and so on, rather than act on our impulses, then we are in a better position to create positive change. So always remember, there are 3 things you should pay attention to. What is the issue? What is the relationship? What is the emotion? Next slide. So when we are engaged in conflict, right, as we said, we have a goal, we have an interest, or there's another person with other goals or interests. That's the issue. And our goal may be placed on a continuum from very unimportant in some people's eye. I don't care about your things. I don't care what you want to say. Or it can be highly important. And if there's one person who is going to be highly important too, it's you, it's your goal, at least it ought to be. And then some relationship that we get into with people, they are, the relationship could be temporary and some are permanent. But then because the world spins so fast, even temporary relationship, you could meet up that person again down the road. So even though it is temporary, it is best that we see in relationships as important and that we try to build them into something harmonious, right? So little importance, highly important. But whether permanent or temporary, try to ensure that people are left with a good memory of you, not a bad memory of you. And remember that people's issues are important to them. Next one. So always remember that. So you might have heard about the 5 basic styles of handling conflict, where we talk about being a teddy bear, we talk about being an owl, we talk about being a shark, a fox, or a turtle. Now an owl is, we have an owl as being wise. So obviously, people who are into problem solving more than trying to assert some control and get people to cooperate and to ensure that the goal is sorted out. Obviously, that's the old style. The person who's a teddy bear is going to always be over agreeable, non-assertive, always accommodating, and always cooperative. Right? Smooth things over. A shark is a shark, going to force you into a win-lose position. Very confrontational, very aggressive, and must win at any cost. That is what that style carries with it. A fox, sly and wily, compromise. Very aggressive, but can also be cooperative. Is into a win some, lose some. Not going, fight to the death like the shark would in order to win. The turtle, non-confrontational, ignores everything, deny that there's a problem. Next slide. So, what we want to ask, all of those styles, everybody use them at some point or the other. But what is your go-to style? Because this is one of the things we need to do. What is we all have a tendency to behave over time in a particular way, and that is how people get to know us and differentiate us from everybody else, is a tendency to be. So what is your go-to style? Let us see if we can help you in this last few minutes to try and figure out where you stand. Next slide, please, Yaz. So, first of all, with everything else, regardless of your style, it's always going to be emphasizing this, that words have power. And can't forget words. The language we use in a conflict situation can determine whether the conflict go up or it come down. And the concern that you show for others, and as opposed to the concern you show for yourself. So if you think that other people are unimportant, then obviously there's likely to be a problem, because the fact of the matter is that if you are a shark, you are going to be showing low concern for everybody else, and you are going to be showing high concern for yourself, right? Because what is going to be important to you is the goal. Are you that kind of person, right? The owl is going to also think that people are important and what their issues are important. The fox, middle ground as always. The turtle has little or no concern for basically not going to show a lot of concern for themselves. Sometimes turtle give up too much of themselves just to smooth things over, just to get peace, right? And the teddy bear will do that to accommodate. So, next slide, please, yes. So basically, these are the styles, right? Here they are, who we are. Which is your tendency? Are you saying that relationships are important and goals are important? How do you manage that when you find yourself? Or if you are dealing with somebody who has that tendency and where there's a conflict, how are you going to work with that person? If there's the teddy bear that's saying that the relationship is important, so look here, I'll be very accommodating. I'm going to be agreeable. I'll even give up my own position, my own rights, just to get peace. But is that always useful? It might be useful in some situation, but can it always be the style that we go to? Can you always be competitive, win at all costs, survival of the fittest? Where it's just what you want all the time? That's very important for us to know. Who are the owls? who are, or at least who have the tendency to be owls, tendency to be bears, tendency to be sharks. Next slide, please. Are you into the idea that I can cooperate and I have some kind of middle ground? I am moderately concerned about the goal and the relationship. I can be aggressive, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, let us find a middle ground. Is that your tendency to be trying to always find a middle ground? Is that you? Is your tendency to avoid, to withdraw, to ignore, to deny that something is a problem? Again, that is dangerous in some situations. So you have to try and start to know yourself, to know what style you prefer, and then you have to also learn to recognize it in people around you, because when things are to be done, when you're trying to get a conflict under control, you have to recognize these tendencies in other persons. Next slide, please. So when we avoid an issue, we don't want to get involved, and we decide it is not worth effort to pursue. Some cases that is okay. We compromise when sometimes is not because we don't want to collaborate, but we might not have the time for the negotiation, or we just want a problem solved. So we find a middle ground. Some of us accommodate too much because it's about people liking us, people accepting us, and we want things to remain smooth. But beneath all of that, a lot of problems could be brewing. So we have to be careful. And then when we compete, we believe strongly in our ideas, our issues. And sometimes we do that to the detriment of relationship, because we are seeking to force, to persuade others to yield to us. So it's important that we understand these things. And when we are collaborating, remember, you're going to be assertive, but you have to be careful about that assertiveness too, because you still want people to cooperate, because you can be assertive in an offensive way without meaning to be. And so you need to know that, and it is at the opposite side end of avoiding a situation, right? So please be very careful about these styles. Yes. Next slide, please. So we have benefits then if we move from conflict to peace. First and foremost, we can decide on and clarify important problems and issues and agree to find the solution. Means we are basically trying to become an owl there. And even a fox to compromise, because we need to get the problem solved. We want people to be able to resolve the issues important to them, right? We need to have real and open and honest communication. We need to help get people release negative emotion, anxiety, and stress. We are able to get cooperation, and we are able to learn more about each other and learn from each other. And we are able to help people to develop understanding and skills of working and being and living and playing and achieving with each other. We can build and strengthen relationship, and where we are working as teams, we can get teamwork together. Many of you in this chat are in this conversation, you're part of groups of some form, whether it's a family group, a church group, a Rotary group, whatever other group. Teamwork is important. And so these are some of the benefits that you can get when you deal with real issues and you concentrate on seeing how you can get a win-win situation rather than a win-lose situation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Jans. Right. So whatever the style that you think you have a tendency towards, my suggestion would be all styles are important and appropriate at some point. And so you have to kind of know, that is why we talk about building your skill and your knowledge to be able to know when to walk away. As Kenny Rogers said, you need to know when to hold, when to fall, and need to know when to walk away. So whatever the style that you're going to use, your ability to do so successfully depends on your ability to manage stress, your ability to listen carefully, your ability to be aware of and respect the differences that people bring to the table. People in your own family, in whatever other groups you are, they have differences. How can you show respect and tolerance for those differences without breaking down relationship to a point where it escalates into violence and all of that? And you have to be aware of your own emotional situation. What would be your triggers? There are some things that trigger us. And I am convinced that that young lady in that video chat that I was talking to you about, that something triggered her emotion and she hit out. She's not hitting out at the dead girl, even though it looks that way. She's hitting out at the rest of us for not showing enough care and concern for all victims. That is what she's hitting out at. And it suggests to me that people close to her, if not her, may have had the trauma. So we have to be aware of all the things that trigger us, and we need to tell people to call a halt. Next slide. So as peace leaders, when you have a conflict to deal with, remember, analyze the situation before you act. Remember that. Those three issues, ask yourself, what is my issue where this is concerned? What is my relationship to the other person? How important it is for it to remain harmonious? How am I feeling? What emotions are with me right now? And then you use that information for your own self-awareness, but not just for yourself. Try and use the same questions to find out where the other person is. Find out their point of view, have an understanding of their issue, their feelings, their relationship, and how aware they are. Next one, Yaz. So if you really want to move to peace, then please manage your physical and emotional response, i.e. your body language, your facial expressions, and the emotions that can bleed out into your tone of voice. Before sometimes you even get to want to talk to people, write down your own fears, your own wants and needs. Sometimes you might have to change your perspective and see the bigger picture. You have to try and start to understand the thing from somebody else's point of view. Try and ensure that you have the facts straight. Make sure as much as possible you are not operating on assumptions, whether it's your own conflict or you're helping another person to deal with a conflict. Identify and think through outcomes and options. Work with people to that. Don't let them keep going on and on about the issue that is bothering them. Try to move people along, but do it in a respectful way. Next one, yes. And so it's very difficult, and a conflict conversation is a very difficult one. As I said, here we have it again. I'm repeating it for emphasis. Focus on your bodily feelings so you can manage the situation you encounter advantageously. Listen to your breath and your heartbeat. Find out if your pulse is going too fast. Breathe slowly, count to 10 through your mouth, through your nostril. Take deep breath. Do anything to get your body back under control, because then the brain will become a place of calm and you'll be able to start think and reason rationally. If it's your conflict, you need to do that, and if it is somebody else's conflict, you need to do that, because you don't want to be dragged into the part of the issue rather than becoming part of the solution. And if you write down your apprehension, suppose you're going to have to talk to somebody about something, might be a family member, might be a parent, might be a boss, might be anybody. Write down your apprehensions about the situation. And then you might very well find you don't need to discuss it with somebody else. But if you do not, it might put you in a better position to discuss it with somebody else. Right? Next one. And so accept responsibility for your own action and your own response. Right? Think about the consequences of your action. Consider how you might act and what that action might provoke. Prepare yourself with correct information so you do not err when you enter a conversation. Don't blurt out things. Ask questions. Say you want you want it for clarity. And I'm stressing again, Caribbean people, we know we live in our emotions. We live out loud. Don't let emotions lead you and distort us, the facts and the situation. Pay attention. Next one. And so, every challenging situation comes with options and new outcomes. So it can open up new territory. That cannot wait both you and the other person. So just be careful, just be aware of that, and know that any difficult conversation will include a negotiation. And in any negotiations, it is helpful to know boundaries before you go in. So that's why you need to have perspective too. Don't push it too far. Next slide, yes. And in getting in these conversations too, you don't know what you will encounter. You don't know. So again, expansive listening. Give the other person a chance to speak before rushing to premature judgment. Clarify the situation by saying back to them in your own words what you think they just said. And if you misunderstood, give them a chance to clarify. It will show people that you're paying attention. Next one. And trust me, if when you're getting in these conversations, try not to impose, right? You're not a shark. Try not to force. Try to get the parties, whether you are one of the parties to the conflict or not, to work through and come to some kind of acceptable solution. And if you are the person trying to build the peace, you help them to work through that and make it acceptable to them, not to you. Right? And you can try again to help them reframe the thing in a different perspective, but be careful that your own values and your own point of view don't influence too much the conversation. Those people who are listening will know if you have distorted what they say, and so you need to also pay attention to what the words that they use and use it back. Watch their body language, and you can start to figure out whether people are uncomfortable with certain subjects. And so give people time to reveal what is in their mind. Next slide, and I think I'm coming to the end, people. In this difficult conversation, try to move from justification to resolution. Because sometimes we want to hold on to our position through justification, which really doesn't move the conversation along, and we remain exactly where we are. People come out of the conversation feeling that nothing has changed. Try to look forward and figure out, is there an opportunity? Try not to look backward, because backward is usually about blaming. If you are looking backward, look backward and ask yourself, what were the lessons learned? Not to blame, but what did we learn? And try to look at the situation from both sides. Identify where compromise can be reached rather than make a demand. The old man make every effort to respond in a positive manner when possible. It might not always be, but try your best. Even when you're going to be negative about what you want to do, you might have to give them some kind of positive spin on why you can't do it that way. And what is even more important, separate the people from the problem. Don't tell people that you are difficult. Tell the people that this is a difficult problem. This is an issue. We're working on it, and we can get there. But let us look at it from another angle. So we keep focusing on the issue, the interest, and not the positions, and see how we can get out of it. And we try to generate as many possibilities as we can before we decide what to do. We look at the pros and cons and try our best as possible to see if we can get the results to be based on some kind of objective standard rather than an emotional one. Something that we can look back on and say, yes, we had agreed to do this and we see it being done, right? And so we see progress. Next slide. Yes, next slide. So, peace leaders, as I ended as I did last December, with begin where you are. Begin where you are. As we all know who that is, Nelson Mandela. Action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world. So I gave you a poem about dreamers of peace, and it did call us to action. We are talking about peace leaders in action, but we need to have the tools and we need to know the end state that we want to get to in peace. What will it look like? What are the tools that we need to have in our toolkit to get us there? I hope that I have shared some with you and hope that you learn something. Any questions you have, please put them in the chat. Last slide, is where I just say to people, your thoughts, your comments, your observations, and your questions. And thank you for listening. Thank you.
All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Thank you so much, President Novlet, for that very informative session. Based on what you said, I can agree that words and actions are truly instrumental when it comes to conflict resolution. And as she said, we must highlight the concern for others rather than ourselves. And as a part of, and as members of the Rotary family, we know and we live through the word service above self. And it is also important that in conflict resolution, we separate the person from the problem in order to come to resolutions and compromises. Now, before we go into our remaining speakers for the day, I just want to remind everyone to keep their mics muted throughout the presentations. Whatever questions and comments that you may have, you can put them in the chat, and also you can select a language for those who are not fluent in English. With that being said, we will invite our next speaker, Mr. Trevor Spence, the CEO of the CEO, Conflict Prevention and Peace Building at Boys Town, Jamaica.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, we are.
Oh, good. And I would say good afternoon, because I think in your part of the woods it's now afternoon. And thanks for having me. My presentation, following up on President Novlet, is going to be something about a practical demonstration of that peace in action. So just a bit about Boys Town, which celebrated 80 years, November gone, is that for the British Caribbean or British West Indies, conflict and a round of conflict started in the 1930s with social unrest, political uprising, trade unions. And the British government of this stage, because we had not yet received self-government and independence, had a royal commission, the Royal Commission, the Moyne Commission, that came about in 1938. Several recommendations came about, including the University of the West Indies. But the one we are zeroing on is the establishment of boys' work in Kingston, inner city Kingston. That recommendation was accepted, and the Kingston YMCA, Young Men Christian Association, was asked to partner the government. And so Boys Town came about in 1940. And it builds upon the concept of the YMCA triangle. So the crest of Boys Town is developing the total human being, body, mind, and spirits, creating useful citizens. And I just want, within that concept, to zero in on 4 words, because we talk about conflict, and Novelet went through a comprehensive understanding of what causes conflict, etc. But for me, and representing what I want to say, that conflict in the community, generally speaking, is the failure to come to an agreement. And peace is the freedom from that conflict. So when you want to move from conflict to peace, is finding that out. But then we also have to know what caused disagreement. And we hear, especially in inner city Jamaica, lots of demonstrations that say, we want justice. So it brings me to the 3rd word of moral righteousness, if we want to call it, equitability. And so that for us to have peace, we also need justice. So it is Martin Luther King Jr. that said there can be no justice without peace, and there can be no peace without justice. And yet a 4th word is the word power. And Mahatma Gandhi speaks that the day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace. And the fact that we have not yet had peace means that that is so. So power has 2 sides to it, is those who may control over us. But there's another side of power that brings me to the Boys Town story, is the political process that offers people power over their own lives. So what has Boys Town been doing for the last 8 years? It has really come up with a number of strategies. One could be called education for change. That is educating persons to have an understanding of themselves. And not just the concept, what we like to call reading, writing, arithmetic, the R's, but that education for change is where persons acquire the skills to be conscious of themselves and their surrounding. And there are 2 tools that are used beside the classroom education that Boys Town have been using for the 8 years. That's sports as a development tool. So we have been extremely successful in sports, but we are not a sports club, and that often create even conflict with the community itself that wants us to be a sports club. And culture. Though Boys Town exists in Trenchtown, but it was, as I earlier said, intended to be a national program. And the product of the Rastafarian Center, the reggae music, the ska music, all of those products. And a part of Trenchtown surrounding Boys Town is literally the heritage part of Jamaica, where all the cultural phenomena started. And more studies need to be done on its equation with Boys Town, because there are about 35 international artists, including Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, etc., that came out of Trenchtown, and all of them were also part of the Boys Town experiment. And the work schedule is another of the thing where persons are given the opportunities. I leave the last strategy for last because it's cross-cutting, is mentoring that allows for personal development. I want to say something that we often confuse education with socialization and training, but they are all different tools that are equipping our young people so that the mentoring help with personal development in showing life skills and growing citizenship and in doing the human potential. So the expected result of these programs, which has been extremely successful, and the list of graduates out of Boys Town reads like who is who in the Jamaica and Caribbean society, because one of the better known graduates died at 26, who is considered the mentor role model par excellence out of Boys Town. That is Collie Smith, who was a close friend of Garfield Sobers. In fact, he died in a car accident that Garfield Sobers was a driver. And Frank Worrell, when he gave up cricket on the world scene and came and lived in Jamaica and as a warden at one of the halls at UWI, selected to play for Boys Town in honor of Collie Smith and captain Boys Town to its first Senior Cup cricket championship. Now, what are these strategies expected to do? They are, one, expected to provide opportunities for young people. And although it started out at Boys in the 1960s, the YMCA became co-educational. And so we have both girls and boys. And so the training and education and sports are providing opportunities for young persons to have skills, personal skills, life skills, work skills, to exhibit their human potential and to have a voice. It also allowed the community to advocate on their part. And it allows for participation in the decision-making process that impact their lives. And then it draws on actions that persons can participate in, because you can have conflict and we can become dormant. And if not, then nothing changes. And I just want to bring in, because the leadership of the YMCA brought in the Methodist Church and seconding Hugh Sherlock, who is also the author of our national song, which is a national prayer. So between the YMCA and the Methodist Church, we are faith-based. And the concept of education for change indicates and is best summed up in the word of the late Reverend Dr. Roy Neal, of the Caribbean Conference of Churches at Trinidad, and that says social change is possible without force or violence, so long as those who own that power don't use it to keep themselves in the area of power. And so the concept that youth has to pay attention to, that sometimes advocacy goes a little further in terms of looking at how we can change our communities. And we as the older adults have to recognize in many ways that the world has not been a better place for you and I, and there has been levels of failure. So that young people are called, and in individual capacity, in your groups for action, to help to create the platform for social change that is using the instruments that are available to create a more just and equitable society. And one of the examples of that for 80 years, as I've said, has been what Boys Town have worked towards. And the good parts of it is that it has produced hundreds of good citizens of the country, including in sports, and hundreds that have played cricket, football, have been involved in boxing. At our independence in 1972, Bonnie Grant, who is one of the product of Boys Town, won for the Commonwealth crown, the first middleweight or lightweight boxing championship. We have produced in the cricket and the football a number of persons. We have produced leaders in the sports administration, in politics, and in business. The cultural icons from, and I think that most of us that grew up in the Caribbean will equate more Trench Town, but all of, that's where Boys Town is located, in the middle of Trench Town, and the home of the music is also one of the first UNIA church, that is the Marcus Garvey, who became one of the international figures in social change. The Rastafarian movement, one of the homes is in Trench Town. And it continued to provide, and our founding director, Hugh Sherlock, was the author of what is our national song, our national prayer, our national anthem, and all of that helped to contribute to nation building. So at that, in fact, I want to end there because the focus as Novlet took us through the what causes the conflicts, what are the situation around conflicts. And I'm just talking about the organization response to conflict in a community setting. And I know that Ricardo is one of the products of Boys Town. And it would be more interesting when you get to that point now to hear him talk about the impact that an organization like Boys Town has had on him. So that is my sharing at this point. Are we there?
Yes, we are. Cheyenne?
Thank you so much, Mr. Spence, for that very informative piece. And we'll go right into a testimonial from Mr. Ricardo McGeechee. Mr. McGeechee, you may go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much and good day to you all. First, we'd like to use the opportunity to thank Ms. Novlet Grant for that presentation. I am going to tear a few pages from that presentation to use in my daily manual at Boys Town. And also, I would thank Mr. Spence also for that brief history on Boys Town And very brief history, I should say, because if you would continue, it would take us hours to go through the history of Boys Town. But as introduced, my name is Ricardo Magici, and I am a product of parents told me that they were coming from a cricket game which my father played for Boys Town, represented Boys Town proudly. And on the way home, I was born just on the borders and then taken to the hospital. I was schooled in Western Kingston, DownTown Primary School, the Tivoli Gardens Primary School. During my school years, I loved the game of cricket. And that is because of my father who represented Boys Town. He would take me to any cricket game or every cricket game. After finishing school at Tivoli Comprehensive High, it was customary that, you know, you go to the school, so you end up playing cricket for the community of Tivoli. And that was influenced by the former MP and late Prime Minister, Mr. Siaga. But I must say that that career was very short-lived. My father was furious of me representing the community of Tivoli because his philosophy is that we don't have any legacy there. He played for Boys Town. His father played for Boys Town. So I ended up playing for Boys Town and I loved it. When I went to Boys Town, it was like a family setting. I played the first cricket game for Boys Town at the age 13, and that was because the wicketkeeper was injured and there weren't any other player there. So I went out and I represented myself quite well. And from there and then I played continually. I played a little football, but better at cricket. I met Lindell Wright, who is Collie Smith's brother, Carl Brown, who is the only coach, local coach that ever take us, the Reggae Boys, to the World Cup in 1998. And meeting up with these guys, it was just a huge impact on me and difference it made in my life. In all my schooling and playing cricket for Boys Town, there was a lot happening in the community and around me. My friends, you know, some of them go to gang violence. There were conflicts between this gang, that gang, the community of Tivoli Gardens and RYLA, which is Wilton Gardens. And the gun is very prevalent in that area, or the inner city area. That was presented to me in more than one occasions. And, you know, tried to influence me not to go to Boys Town. Why you go to Boys Town? I go to Boys Town because I remember the first cricket game at age 13. Father Hugh Sherlock look at me and tell me that you are special. And I never forget that up to this day. And that changed my whole outset and outlook on life. We at Boys Town, we have the vocational center that, you know, we learn about woodwork, mechanics, electrical installation. And there was the sports and the culture side, which Mr. Spence just spoke about. We are not a football or cricket club, but Boys Town uses these sports to help with the development of the holistic human being. Because as he said, we had produced a lot of stalwarts in administration too at Boys Town. The violence, you know, it get out of hand between Tivoli and RYLA, and I was taken away from that. I migrated for 13 years, but still keep in touch with people at Boys Town and the community. Upon my return, I went to Boys Town. That's the first place I went to when I came back from the airport. And I sat in a computer lab. We had a program there at Boys Town, the 15 to 18 program, CEDA program. And I look at these kids that was there and, you know, hearing seeing their body language and hearing how they are speaking. I asked the teacher to help me, to, you know, give me the opportunity to talk. And I look at one little boy and I remember Father Sherlock telling me I'm special. And I told that little boy that he's special. And he said, why I said that? I said to him, because you are. And I explained further with him. Today, that little boy assists us at Boys Town in our youth club right now. We still is at that age that he helps us with the youth club. What saved my life though at Boys Town was the consistent mentorship, which is important. You're hearing people, just like your little son keep troubling the vase on the center table. They tell him, don't trouble it, don't trouble it. One day when you're not there, if he's stretched to trouble it, he's gonna hear that voice in his head. So the consistent and consistent mentorship saved me from going towards the gun and the programs that Boys Town offer. I've met Leonard Levy in my lifetime. Uncle Sonny, we call him, played cricket at Boys Town. And also Harold Richardson, who Carl Brown also was used their position to help the youths of Boys Town, influence to get a job, to save some life. Because one of the things in the inner city is that people have needs. They have needs. And if these youngsters are not helped, then they're gonna go to the gangs, which I think is a quick thing for them, the lavish life and all of that, but it's a death trap. I can tell you, it's definitely a death trap. And I am happy. Some of the guys that I grew up with and go to school with, they are not around today. And I've seen, their parents are still around, that they're hurting over all of that when you could channel your life down a more positive path. Our motto at Boys Town is that we build no matter what. And after that youth program and that talk with the kids in the computer lab, I started to teach graphic design there, which was a skill I acquired at Boys Town and certified through CPTC. I started with that. I coached the cricket team at Boys Town. I still play a little Masters League cricket, let's put it that way. I helped with the football and was a GenSec and events and fundraising coordinator for the football. Now I am the Chief Operations Officer at Boys Town. Recently, late last year, we started a youth club. And that's the only way we're gonna continue and try to save lives, because that is my motto right now, to try and help save lives. I do try to do that every day. Starting the youth club, these are some of the roughest little boys in and around Trenchtown or the environs of Boys Town. And I've seen some development with them. There's still a long way to go with them, but if Boys Town could save me and impact my life in a positive way, and this is my way of giving back. I volunteer at Boys Town anytime, any day. Sometimes people, my wife would say, why are you going to Boys Town on a Sunday? Because I know I had that mentorship. I had that person I could look at that I would see there to talk to me. And each time I drive in Boys Town, the youth club, the guys, they are running behind me because of two things. They like my company and they know they're going to get a meal. They need help in that side of the world. Today, I'll continue to do what I have to do with Boys Town. I won't stay long, but that is my testimony, really, of Boys Town impacts on me. My everyday life, before I leave in the mornings, I would say the national anthem, which is our prayer. I try to instill certain discipline, which I've gotten from, Father Sherlock, a Junior Lincoln also, who is a, Boys Town person and a disciplinarian. Mr. Spence, Trevor Spence, who's constantly mentoring. I keep saying that is very much important. Mentoring at Boys Town, very much important than anything else right now. And of course, we need other programs to save lives. Being at Boys Town, I basically become self-conscious, self-aware that my ability can be, and my vibe, my energy can be channeled more positively, because the opportunity was there at Boys Town. When the gangs are pushing guns to you as a youngster and you don't have any other options, you're gonna go there. But because of Boys Town, that life-saving institution, I can sit here today and at least give you guys a synopsis of what saved me, you understand, and the work that I'll be continue doing there with these youngsters. So I thank you guys for listening as we continue to build. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very inspirational story, Mr. McGeechee. I learned a lot from it. I feel very inspired, and I really hope that our attendees today feel the same way. This type of story is something that kind of inspires us and drives us to want to volunteer more, want to be peace leaders within not just, we can't change the world, but we can at least be peace leaders and positive agents of change within our schools, within our communities, and in our homes. And I personally want to thank you, sir, for the contribution that you're making towards the boys' home, and basically just being a mentor towards these boys and letting them see a positive side of life, and that there is hope for them, and that there are brighter things to look forward to in their futures. Thank you again, sir. With that being said, we'll be moving into our Let's Talk COVID segment, which will be led by Dr. Mario Guthrie. Dr. Mario Guthrie is a Jamaican medical doctor functioning as a general practitioner and family physician. He is also a soulful and dynamic songwriter and singer with a vibrant personality. Dr. Matt Guthrie, over to you.
Hi, folks. Let me unmute. Hi, guys. How are you? It's my pleasure to be here. Let me first thank Peter Gay Price for inviting me to speak around vaccination. It's very topical right now. It's what's going on. And I actually want this to be an opportunity for you guys to ask a lot of questions. I'm not sure what the format has been so far, if that's happening at the end. But in this conversation, it would be great if I could use some of this time to have people throw some questions at me, because I think it will make it that much more interesting. But let me kick it off by first addressing the topics on the agenda. And the first thing was our roles and responsibilities in managing COVID-19. And without going over all the things we hear every day, in a nutshell, I would say we need to keep ourselves safe and we need to keep others safe. So we have personal responsibility, and we also have responsibility for those around us. So that includes all of your social distancing measures. They're very important. Wear your mask, keep the 6 foot distance from people around you. A lot of us have family members, so they range in ages. So it's not so much about just you, it's about them. Educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. I want you guys to garner information from reliable and trusted sources. I'm a medical doctor, so I am based and steeped in traditional medicine, which is based on something we call evidence-based medicine. Everything from vaccines to every medication you take, even though they have risks and side effects, they are extensively studied in large numbers of people and animals, right? So we're not saying that anything that we take is perfect, but there is proof, and there are things that we can go back on to say that X and Y may happen if someone takes X or Y. And I'm setting that framework before I move on again. So reliable sources, the CDC, the WHO, in whichever country you are, your ministry, for us in Jamaica, that would be the Ministry of Health, right? And particularly, based on the audience here today, I wanted to mention that youth does not make you invincible. This could be the whole conversation. There is this perception that because I'm young, I cannot suffer from COVID-19 infection, and that's not true. The truth is that, based on the statistics, older people with underlying diseases are at greater risk. That is true. So in the spectrum of things, younger people do better. Kids do better than elderly people. It does not mean that there will not be young people who can succumb to illness. So keep that in mind. So don't be walking around with this invincibility complex that because I am young, I can run up and down in the streets, right? That's not how it works. And also remember that my analogy is that as a young person who is healthy, you are a loaded gun because you may be walking around asymptomatic. which means that you are carrying infection right in your nostrils and you are not having many symptoms, which means that you're transmitting virus to people around you who may be at greater risk. So regarding roles and responsibilities, again, keep yourself safe, keep others safe by not living in a false perception that you're invincible, and remembering that there are other people that you can impact who will suffer way more than you can, and also that there is a possibility that you may not have a walk in the park either. All right. I want to just move into the next section, which is vaccination and what it means to me. And what I'll do, I'll just tell you about my experience getting vaccinated. In Jamaica, we have a process of phases. I am in phase 1, which is healthcare workers, Jamaica Defense Force, police officers, and elderly over 60. I got my vaccine last week, Tuesday. So I am now at about day maybe 11 post-vaccine. And to be candid and honest with you, even as a medical doctor, I had significant vaccine hesitancy. The day before my vaccine was when that whole thing came out about people finding clots after being vaccinated. It made me a little nervous. I almost canceled my appointment. I almost didn't go. And like everybody else, I was hearing all the things. Why they make the vaccines too fast? Why them pushing it on us? Why it seems like them forcing it on us? What is the rush? It's a conspiracy theory. And I myself had to battle with those things like you guys had to as well. Oh, there's a chat. Let me look inside of it. And what I came right back to was evidence-based medicine. And what it suggested were that the trials were done properly. The trials were done with large numbers of people. The trials were only seemingly expedited because we had a pandemic. We had large numbers of people dying. What that means is that vaccine preparation gets funded. Under normal circumstances, these things may not be funded as readily as you think. But it doesn't mean that any steps were skipped in checking for safety of the vaccine. Those things were done properly. So just kill that part. The only thing that we are not absolutely certain of are the long-term effects. You can only know long-term effects after you've had them, which means at a 1-year mark, a 2-year mark, a 5-year mark, those things we do not know. But in terms of common side effects, immediately after getting a vaccine, the likelihood of what the vaccine may do in an immediate setting, we do know that, and we've done studies on that, and we know we've done it in a range of races and ages. Moving on to my vaccine experience. This is why I wanted you guys to ask questions, because I will ramble. No, I'm not rambling, but I just wanted to emphasize that I was afraid. I almost canceled. I went ahead and went to my appointment, and overall the experience was good. And I'll just say that we were counseled, we were registered, I was vaccinated. We were observed for 15 to 20 minutes. It was a 20-minute observation. And that really is for immediate side effects, like what we call anaphylactic reactions, where you go into severe swelling and stuff. And usually once that doesn't happen, the common side effects would be regular, typical vaccine side effects that most of us in this group probably would have had at some point in our lives, which could be some fever, you know, a little feeling unwell, flu-like symptoms, but mild. I was good for day 1, day 2, day 3. Oddly, on day 4, I had a low-grade fever and a little bit of loose stool, which went away by the next day. And right now, I'm fine. My next dose is in 8 weeks of the AstraZeneca vaccine out of the UK. And I will be going for my next dose, and I'm very happy that I did it. And my parents also work in the health sector, and they got it as well. And they're in their 70s, and that layer of protection that they now have is comforting. Before I let you ask some questions, I just want to drop 2 last things. Vaccination is a personal choice. Don't force anyone to get vaccinated. Don't come from the angle where you feel like you need to tell them that they need to get vaccinated. But I think if you are pro-vaccine, come from an angle where you encourage them to seek sound knowledge on the vaccination process, because it's your right to not be vaccinated. If you choose to not be vaccinated, though, ensure that you do everything else to protect yourself, because COVID-19 is real. In Jamaica, we have a myth around some people in our population who I think feel like this whole thing is fake. I think there's still Jamaicans who feel like it's not real. It's kind of weird to me. And the overarching term I want you guys to remember from anything I've said is risk versus benefit. That's what your conversation piece is going to be as young leaders talking to people about vaccine. Risk versus benefit is what we do as doctors every day. Doc, why should I take this blood pressure medication? It might make me have X. Sir, the reason you should take the blood pressure medication is because it will keep your blood pressure lower. If your blood pressure is high for a prolonged period of time, you can suffer from a stroke, a heart attack, kidney disease. You could die. Your risk of dying from hypertension is worse than the side effect of the medication. Same principle comes back around and applies to the COVID-19 vaccine. With the clots, it was like, at the time when I researched, it was like 37 people. With or without vaccines, they noted that maybe 100 to 200 people could get a clot. With or without a vaccine in the world, 100 or 200 people per month could get a clot. 37 people post-vaccine have developed a clot, and we do not know yet if it's from the vaccine. But it is significant and it is being researched. But with that said, you could get a clot from developing COVID-19. It's a big basis of the disease that you get clots. You get clotting from the disease itself. So you have to step back from all of that and say to myself, would I want to get the clotting from the disease? Or would I take the risk of getting the vaccine and the protection that the vaccine can give, which is ultimately not having a severe disease and not dying. That's all the vaccine really does. Prevents you from having very severe disease and prevents you from dying, which prevents you from going in the hospital and being on a ventilator. When you weigh your risk benefit from that angle, it gives you more information to make an informed decision. And I'll stop right there and I'm going to look back at the chat. As a medical doctor, I wanted to ask you, what has COVID-19 taught you and how can it benefit others? I like that question, and what it has taught me is that it's real. I want to also let you know that I caught COVID-19. I'm not ashamed of it. I had it in November 2020, I'm sorry. I caught COVID-19 in November. I don't think I caught it from medicine. I think I caught it from the environment. I had mild disease, thankfully. But a friend of mine who is in his 60s with an underlying condition caught it as well. And he ended up in the hospital, shortness of breath, low oxygen saturation, admitted to the ICU, placed in an induced coma, got a tracheotomy in the neck, got released, survived. He took 3 months to come back out of the hospital and is now at home. And it really has given me great perspective on the spectrum of disease, that you can be asymptomatic to like me who had like flu-like symptoms, to someone older with an underlying disease who can be out of commission for 3 months, to people who I know who have died. So it has really taught me to respect the disease and to respect life.
Dr. Guthrie, we're going to help you with the chat and the questions.
Awesome.
There is our district chair for peace building, who is in the Turks and Caicos Islands. She made a comment, which I think you'll be interested. She said, my daughter and I are going on 2 months and happy that we did. That's the vaccine, that I got the vaccine.
Right.
No downtime with the exception of minor pain in the arm, like any other vaccination. And she would like to suggest that it's worth getting it.
I mean, at this point in time, I feel like I agree with her because there is no other intervention right now outside of social distancing and masking that is going to protect us as much as a vaccine. So I would agree.
And students are concerned that because they're in the younger age group,
right,
and some of them have to go to school in-person classes,
right?
Because remember, we're dealing with 10 Caribbean countries around, 10 countries around the Caribbean at this forum.
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to know what are some of the tips you can give them. They know they have to mask, they know they have to maintain social distancing, but the question of frequent washing of hands is not always possible
Right.
in their circumstance. So what can you suggest that they do in order to further protect themselves?
Well, what would be ideal is wherever they are really should have set up facilities for them to have frequent hand washing. But let's say it's not available, then they will have to bring their own sanitation. I always say people to have a sanitation kit. If it's possible for you to come put some hand sanitizer, hand wipes, a mask, an extra mask. If you can create a little travel kit with you that will be your little safety first aid, I think that would be a great thing for anyone to have, whether you're a student or not, because I think it will give you a little peace of mind to know that at least if I can't wash my hands, I can apply some alcohol, you know? So that would be my tip.
And also, having gotten the vaccine,
right?
What do you suggest that we continue to do? All the protocols, all the measures, or can there be some ease in any one of those measures?
It's a good question. And what I will say is you have to maintain the protocols. And there's been some confusion because Florida has started to let up a little bit. And they're letting up on the basis that they have maybe closer to what a herd immunity situation would look like. So herd immunity is really where a large number of your population is vaccinated. And because so many people are vaccinated, even the ones that aren't vaccinated kind of get protected because their overall is just less disease, less infection moving around. So the people who never bother choose to get the vaccine, them kind of end up being okay because them just don't encounter it. Ideal herd immunity is like 90% though. And when you have people resisting vaccination, it's really hard to achieve herd immunity. That said, there are also new strains that are popping up, and getting the vaccination does not necessarily prevent reinfection. And a lot of this stuff is still being investigated. But what the thought is that you get the vaccination, your body develops these antibodies, which are your soldiers to kind of fight if you get an infection. But it doesn't mean that you can't get reinfected. It also means that you can still spread. So even though you probably won't be admitted and you probably will have a weaker illness, you still can have viral particles in your nostrils, in the back of your nasopharynx, and it means if you cough and sneeze, you could give it to somebody. So the long answer to your question is yes, keep your mask on, keep washing your hands, keep social distancing. The vaccination does not necessarily prevent you from spreading it to others.
And the last one here is someone wants to thank you for your honest explanation, because even though they're afraid of needles, when the phase comes for educators, they will certainly be taking theirs. And that's Daniela.
Yeah.
And thank you. She says, thank you for helping me with my confidence and fear. I love learning from and being around young people.
Thank you so much. And guys, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm not plugging, but the truth, I'm actually going to make a video on my vaccination experience. So it may actually be something cool to look at. I want to see if I can get it up this weekend, but it's youtube.com/Mario Evan.
Yeah.
And I am going to really go through my entire process at St. Joseph's Hospital. And I will talk about some of the same stuff we spoke about here. Somebody was asking.
Yes, a nice, a last one. Aniska, she raised her hand and wanted to ask. Aniska, you can unmute and ask Dr. Guthrie.
All right, thank you. All right, I just wanted to ask if
Let us see your pretty face.
No.
She's not ready today.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask if you're infected by it already, by the virus.
Right.
Do you still need to take the vaccine?
Good question. You still can take the vaccine. The recommendation for the AstraZeneca is that you can delay up to 6 months after. And the basis of that is that they think that when you get the infection naturally, that your antibodies may develop and last as long as 6 months. Again, they're not certain. Some people say if you get a mild infection, it's like 3 months. Some of them say if you get a severe infection, it's 6 months. So if you recently had COVID, you could delay. But once you've recovered from that current infection, you can get the vaccine. I mean, traditionally, we don't give vaccines to anyone who is sick. So if you have been a current infection, current fever, like when your baby is sick, they're not going to vaccinate them. So once you've recovered, you can get it. But if you want, you can delay up to 6 months because I think you might have some protection.
Okay, thank
Dr.
you.
Guthrie.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to turn you back over to our host, Cheyenne, for you to continue with the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guthrie. I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone that is here, all the Rotary family members and youth leaders that are present here, for your very hands-on recollection of you taking the COVID vaccine and just giving us some tips that we may employ to protect ourselves so that we can protect ourselves while protecting those around us. Thank you so much again, sir. And we'll be sure to subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Thanks for having me. Have
No
a great
problem.
conference.
No problem, Doc. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Bye. Take care.
You too. And that will take us into our general thank yous to everyone who
And
showed up today.
questions about the peace, moving to peace.
My bad. Sorry about that. Before we go into our thank yous, we'll be facilitating our question and answer session regarding peace and conflict resolution. So if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat and Yasmin will help me to just identify them. And once you're identified, we will either read your question or allow you to turn on your camera and microphone and ask.
I think we can begin with Aniska. She had a question. Aniska, you want to ask that question, please?
Oh yes, I wanted to find out the structure of the peace building program that they had or is currently happening or will happen in Boys Town, because I know the EU has some funding that they want to do for peace building in communities. So I just wanted to hear like their structure. So in the event that when we're trying to develop our structure for a particular community to get the attention of the EU, you know, that was my question.
Okay. You want me to jump in there?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. There are sort of two guiding principles. One is partnership. So for instance, we have Violence Prevention Alliance with the Child Resiliency Program. We are part of the Dispute Resolution Foundation and the alternate. The Trenchtown becomes literally a little overwhelmed by the different groups. Our next thing is that we consider that all our community development activities and mentorship and personal development are built around peace intervention. So we have had a series of discussions around this that relate to preventative, which is where Boys Town attempt to be, versus the curative, situation. We want to maintain as much as possible that we are on the preventative side by providing the opportunities. And when there are situations that are individually based, we do reference to that. I don't know if that answers the concern.
Yes, thank you.
And just a comment for President Novlet, many congratulations on a wonderful presentation. And Danielia mentioned that she has taken away some of it that she will use within her workplace. If anybody else has any other questions, you can just put your hand up, open your mic, and ask your question. Cheyenne, you may want to take over.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Again, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to raise your hand so we can identify you, so you can open your mic and camera to ask your question. Going once, going twice, no questions. Okay, I guess not.
If I may.
Okay, go ahead, Peter Gay.
Conversation and the material presented today was clear to everyone. And so what I would want to find out from our participants, you can feel free to respond, unmute your mic, respond, or to share it in the chat. I want to get a feedback from you. Do you feel as if you have better skills and you have a better understanding of how you can actually go out there and move from a place of identifying conflict, but actually working towards resolving it and establishing an area of peace? Because that is very important for us to know that you feel strong enough and confident enough to be able to take these matters on and exemplify them. So if there's anyone who would like to share, who would want to give some feedback, or even if you just have struggling with a challenge, something that you may have heard, you want to put it into practice, but you might have a little doubt how, now is a good opportunity to ask. All right, so we still have nice silence. Is it that you're using the time to think it through, or you really and truly feel totally sufficient? Give me a thumbs up, some feedback.
Feel free to utilize the chat.
All right, so we see Jimmy, you gave a thumbs up, you feel confident, you have got more skills and you're better able to move from conflict to peace.
Nikita also posted in the chat, it was great how you guys explained how to express emotions. David Scott Felix also said, thank you for those knowledge and information.
All right, and then see Catherine Lloyd also gave a thumbs up.
Jacqueline Cancino, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Jacqueline. I definitely feel as if I'm more prepared to deal with conflict and to create more peace. And Jimmy Kervins also went on to say, very helpful new skills acquired.
Okay, great. And we got a thumbs up from Ali as well.
Sarah Jolly said, the presentation taught me what that violence don't always have to be the answer for a conflict. There is always a positive side to things. I usually react in an angry way, but now I know that I can react differently. Thank you so much. Sandra Cousins, excellent presentation from everyone. Anishka Smith, it's very clear on the style of conflict like the eagle, turtle, shark, fox, etc., which is crucial in dealing with conflict. Carlisa Johnson, the presentations were very informative and the new useful tips will be used in future situations. Sorry.
Sorry, Cheyenne, it's the owl, the teddy bear, the shark, and the fox. Right? I think I heard somebody talk about an eagle. Eagle not in there.
Yes, I think she had mentioned an eagle.
So the bird in there is the owl.
She.
Right, so let us just remind us of all the animals that we're talking about. You remember now we're talking about an owl, right, who is into collaboration. We're talking about a fox who is into compromising, a shark who is in competing, teddy bear who is in accommodating, and a turtle who is in avoiding. So it's 5 animals, which is a tendency that you tend to favor the most. Whether you tend to be sharkish, owlish, foxy, turtly, if there's such a word, pull into your shell, and be a teddy bear. All of those can be used for different situations as a reminder, but it's just to make sure that we know which one we tend to favor the most, because if you tend to favor one the most, you could create a whole heap of problems for yourself and others, all right? So it's the owl, it's the teddy bear, it's the fox, it's the shark, and it's the turtle. All right?
Thank you so much for that correction, President Noblet. I hope that nobody else made the mistake, but if they did, now we know what to allude to.
Yeah.
Going back to the chat, Andre Wallace, tips applied. Danica Silvois, thank you very much, and I congratulate you on the presentations. I learned a lot. Adante Peter, I feel that this was a great season with in-depth session. I think that should have been session with in-depth conversation and presentation. I have learned new skills to help the ones I already have. Thank you all presenters. We have a question here from David Scott Felix. My question is, how can we deal with our siblings when it comes to, I guess he's trying to say, how can we deal with conflict between siblings? So he's alluding to when conflict arises within our own families.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry about my video. For some reason, one of my devices here giving me problem, and then the other one was running out of charge. So it's one of those mornings where, Murphy's Law seems to be operating, right? Siblings have a history together from childhood, and the kind of relationship that emerged and had to do with how parents or the important caregivers handle conflict. Now, sometimes it depends on what age you are at now. But in every relationship, there's a thing called power. But power is not just black and white. There's an issue about power over. And one of the things I like to tell people when I do these sessions, especially when we talk about domestic violence and family violence and so on, is that the idea of power over is that somebody is seeking to say, I can exert some amount of power over you, and I can use that power for good or bad. Unfortunately, a lot of us tend to use it for bad because we use it to discriminate, we use it to deny, we use it to belittle, and we use it to put down and do a lot and discriminate and do a lot of negative things. So the idea of dealing with your sibling when it comes to conflict is to start to go back and examine the relationship that you have with your sibling. Remember, we talk about those three things: the issue, the relationship, and the emotions. Now, some amount of sibling rivalry start when we were young. And again, it depends on how the caregivers help us to navigate that. Whether or not there is deep-seated issues in the relationship, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to generalize here. So you have to look back and try to figure out what was the relationship like growing up? Where are we now with the relationship? Are we having all kinds of little disagreements, no matter what the issue is? Remember I said it in the presentation. Are we having disagreements over every little thing? Because sometimes when you look back at those things, like I said, they might very well be an indicator that they are long-standing issues. And then you have to look at what is the current issue that is at play now. What is it that is causing the current conflict? How have we been handling it? Did we have a lot of negative emotions around it? And did those negative emotions lead to harmful and hurtful actions, behavior, words, and so on? So the person who is asking the question, and for everybody else, I would suggest that you go back and you do that kind of searching in your memory about the history of the relationship with the sibling. Remember I said make some little notes and sit down and start to think about it. Make some notes, what the issues, what the emotions, the relationship has been like. And then you might find that you cannot be the person alone who goes to talk to the sibling. You have to then figure out who would be the most appropriate person for me to discuss these issues with, and what help that person can give me to bring the sibling to the table to have this conversation so that it don't fall into even greater problems. So that could be one level, right? Because you have to now understand where you are. I don't know. If it is just over, if there's a very strong and healthy relationship with the sibling, and there are some little things that are annoying you that the sibling is doing, and it's somebody that you can sit and talk to, I would suggest that you gather yourself, gather your emotions, be mature, and say, I want to talk to you about some behaviors or some actions that I think we need to kind of put them on a different level. And if we talk about it, we can do that. And you try to focus on what the behavior is that is causing your concern, the action that is causing your concern. But in the conversation, try and keep reassuring the sibling that this is about trying to strengthen the relationship. It's not to create any further division or any further problem, but they have to accept that in this relationship, I feel I can talk to you about it because this behavior is making me uncomfortable and I need you to see it from my perspective. So that is the kind of thinking that I would want people to start to figure out where the sibling is. I do know that sibling challenges, that things that happen when we were children with siblings, have a way to turn up when we start to get into adulthood because we didn't resolve those issues, and those holdover resentments can come and color things, the relationship. Now we find ourselves sometimes looking back and we are triggered and we bring it right now into the conversation and it explodes like a bomb and it fractures the relationship because we bring it in with emotional baggage. We never bring it in a mature way to say, you remember such and such an incident? I just want us to talk about it. With the hindsight of being adult now, being where we are and so on. So navigating that sibling thing is not simple and straightforward and black and white. So you have to decide how good the relationship is, how strong it is, how open it is, whether it is something that you can talk to them about on your own, or whether it is something that you're going to need help to talk to them with, to talk to them about. I have to choose the person that you bring in. You don't want to bring in somebody who is going to escalate the thing. I hope that was helpful. Because it is a general question and I don't know the specific, and I don't want you to go into specifics here, obviously. And if you're local, you can always reach out and chat to me one-on-one about it. Because that will give, if you're Jamaican, as a matter of fact, WhatsApp makes everybody connected in a way. So if you want and you want, and I don't mind giving you my numbers if anybody wants it.
Novlet, can you just put your numbers in the chat, the ones that anyone in the forum can get in touch with you?
Yeah, if my machine here is cooperating, yes, it's not cooperating. I don't know what is going on with it today. It's one of those things.
Yasmin, you're muted. You were saying something a while ago.
Oh yes, sorry. No, I was saying, President, send it to me by WhatsApp, and I will put it in the chat for you.
All right. I'm there.
Oh, okay, great.
You move from device to device, you know, man. Using this one like it's a touch. Today, like I said, yeah. So it's there and it's on WhatsApp. So that's a telephone number there. If you see it, it's mine. Yeah, 809-2140, 876 really. So if it's something that is bothering you enough that you figure that I could be of help on a one-to-one basis, please feel free.
President Novlet, David in the chat, he's the one who asked the question. He's thanking you for your advice and your explanation. And I'm sure if he needs further advice, he will not hesitate to reach out to you.
Right.
Yes.
Cheyenne, could you just repeat the number so that, and everyone, the number is in the chat.
President Novlet, she did leave her number in the chat, and it is 876-809-2140. Repeating, 876-809-2140.
Send me a WhatsApp, yeah?
She's available via WhatsApp and eager and ready to give advice.
No, don't want to think about it, but willing to share.
She's willing to share all her information.
Right. You know what they say about advice, Cheyenne? Wise men don't need it and fools send them heed it. But what I can share. I don't know about advising. All right. I'm willing to listen. Yeah.
Could we ask our district chair for peace, Kim Stubbs? She just put a note in the chat. And Kim, can you unmute and just make your comment?
Good afternoon, everyone. Today has been a real treat for me. And yeah, so what I put in the chat was, our district has been, working very hard to ensure a very rewarding RYLA. And as you can imagine, planning a youth session during this recovering pandemic has become quite the challenge. And yet, you brilliant RYLA team prepared an event that students will always remember. I personally feel that this has been the world's most powerful virtual leadership retreat. This session, I mean, I had so much to do today, and I just couldn't move, because every time I tried to move, I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna miss something. And it was really good. So I encourage each of you to continue focusing on power skills like self-awareness, respect for differences, critical thinking, motivation, leadership, creativity, and innovation. So I just want to say thank you to each of you that actually took time out today to be a part of this session. And I hope you got a lot of takeaways from it. So thank you so much. Continue to be great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stubbs, and it was a pleasure having you here today. And with that said, I can relate, and I know that the general consensus in the chat and all the feedback we've been getting is that everybody was very receiving of the information we had to share today. Everybody was very grateful for the advice put forward, and I am sure that everybody will leave here today as agents of change, and everybody here will leave with something to share with someone as well. I just want to point out a few things that were highlighted that stood out to me personally in this session. And as our district governor Seeley said when in his remarks, that the session had the probability to be very transformative. And I'm sure that we all can see where this played out. And conflict resolution, it does possess possibilities beyond our imagination. And sometimes we come into a space like this and we learn something and we pass on the information. And even presenters to the attendees, we don't know the impact or the real extent to which we're impacting lives with the simple words that we have to say and the information that we have to pass on. Additionally, as President Novlet said, our words and actions are very instrumental in conflict resolution. And as Caribbean nationals, we tend to say more with our facial expressions and our gestures rather than with our words. The words usually follow the facial expressions, and most times they don't match up, and we tend to listen to the face rather than the mouth. And with that said, it is also very important that in conflict resolution, we separate the person from the conflict, and that way we can move forward in terms of establishing a sort of compromise and a sort of resolution that is beneficial to all. And in listening to everything that was being said by all the presenters, something stood out to me that whenever you're in any sort of conflict, yes, people might say, count to 10, breathe through your mouth, just try to relax. I will now say to myself, think of the 4-way test. If you really sit down and, analyze the words of the 4-way test, you can see how these are very applicable to conflict resolution. And I just want to extend thank you to everyone who contributed to the process. Thank you to District Governor Seeley, President Novlet, Mr. Trevor Spence, Mr. Ricardo McGeechee, and Dr. Guthrie for your presentations today. I know we all learned a lot. You were very impactful in the information and whatever you had to say. Additionally, I would like to thank Ms. Geraldine Compet for stepping in very last minute to be our translator for today. Thank you for facilitating us, and thank you for executing as well as you did. We want to thank our technical team, especially Mr. Andrew Evelyn, for his technical expertise in bringing this RYLA, this District 7020 RYLA into actuality so that we're all able to attend. I would like to extend thank you also to our RYLA District Chair, Ms. Peter Gay, and to the planning committee. Thank you so much. I know you all worked hard. We worked hard to execute, and I know that our attendees learned something from the presentations and they took away something from the experience. And of course, thank you to all our attendees from the interactors, Rotaractors, Rotarians. As long as you were here today, we thank you. Members of the Rotary family, youth leaders, we appreciate you being here. Without you, this wouldn't be a success. And of course, once COVID allows, a token will be sent to all our presenters today just to further extend our gratitude and our appreciation for accommodating us into your schedule and for passing on the plethora of information that you possess. Additionally, certificates of participation will also be sent out via email, and we're also asking everyone to stay tuned for more updates and activities to come, and these will be sent via email or you will be informed via your sponsor clubs. So thank you again to everybody that was here. I hope you all learned something. I know that I will leave here today with a lot of information, ready to be a peace leader, ready to be a catalyst for change in my community and in my home. Thank you again, everybody. Please remember.
Before you go, Cheyenne,
Yes.
someone is asking for the presentation. Can we just ask President Andrew to just put the YouTube link in the chat for us again, so that everybody can go back and visit it before. Sorry about that, but I thought it was important.
That's no problem. As I said, thank you again, everybody. Remember to stay safe, wear your mask, sanitize. Don't be afraid to get the vaccine. And just continue to be peace leaders, continue to be positive agents of change. Thank you for being here today. And it was a pleasure being your host, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.
And the YouTube link is in the chat.
Thank you all, everybody. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Thank you, President Novlet, for your usual wonderful, informative presentation. And Trevor and Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Your mornings with us. And look at that little one.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to have you, because you were in fact known for this for a good little while back, and you came. You weren't gonna let you off. Ricardo, happy to see you, my friend, as usual. You know, I know your space is not an easy space. One of the things that we you know, I mean, since people not running to leave, the meeting is finished. Just to say that, you know, the availability of these platforms, we should use them to great effect, to congregate like this and to share knowledge, because especially, I know the whole Caribbean